द हरप्रीत सिंह शो ਦੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਐਪੀਸੋਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਹਾਰਦਿਕ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਸਰੀ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਤੋਂ। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਬੜੀ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕਈ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਰੀਅਲ ਏਸਟੇਟ ਮਾਰਕੀਟ ਬਹੁਤ ਗਰਮ ਹੋਈ ਪਈ ਹੈ, ਪਰ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਰੇਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਾਧਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ। ਇਸ ਦਾ ਕੀ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵ ਪੈ ਸਕਦਾ ਰੀਅਲ ਏਸਟੇਟ ਮਾਰਕੀਟ ਤੇ ਕੀ ਟ੍ਰੈਂਡਸ ਨੇ 2022 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਬਾਊਟ ਦ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀ। So we'll have Tony Hundal, who is a well-known mortgage specialist, talk to us. So let's go over to him and start our discussion. Tony, good evening. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I'm good. Great. How about you?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
You're
So Tony,
you're
ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰੀਏ ਕਿ 2021 ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਾਲ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, it was a record-breaking year in real estate. And of course, the mortgage rates were so low that this is being said कि भाई इस कारण ਜਿਹੜੀ real estate market ਇੰਨੀ strong ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। So what happened in 2021? एक पैंडमिक चल रहा सी, पर उसके बावजूद इन्नी मार्केट स्ट्रॉन्ग किमें हुई, मॉर्गेज लैनी इन्नी सौखी किमें होगी?
Yeah, I think what happened in 2021 was with obviously the pandemic. The rates were remaining low, and the government had to force the rates down. So basically, people started buying, and the market triggered, and the prices started going up with the rates being low too. So and there was and the inventory too was low too. So.
Mm-hmm. But when we say, especially during the pandemic, when everybody was just surviving, how is it that it was so easy to get the mortgages? Is it just because the rate was so low that everybody qualified? There used to be a stress test.
No, I mean, it's what it is in the mortgage industry, because I own Access Mortgage, a mortgage broker company local in Surrey here, and I've been doing this 30 years. And what I've seen is the rates, people do take, there's different types of deals going on. There's like A deals with the banks and credit unions, B deals with like B lenders where they are a little more aggressive, and then there's private money. So people keep on borrowing. It doesn't necessarily slow the market down. If you don't qualify on the A side, you'll qualify on the B side, or maybe on the private side and pay a little bit higher rate. So that's what's going on.
Mm-hmm. You have, as you said, 3 decades of experience in the mortgage industry, but 2021 was an exceptional year. As we were discussing, despite the pandemic, but still the buying was going on. And though the rates were low, as you said, the people had different options, whether A or B or private lending. So actually, what was pushing up all this? How is it that people whose income was less, but they were also still qualifying and they were able to buy houses? Is it just because they were taking more of private mortgage, or there was something else going on?
No, there's in between private, which I call B deals, and I did quite a few of those deals. And people that are self-employed and that don't really show their income on their tax returns, they cannot qualify based on 6 months of their business bank statements, and that's all proper, and the B lenders will do that. They charge a little bit higher rate, like around 3.25%, but they will do the deal with 20, and you have to have a minimum of 20%. Right? So those deals I did quite a bit of last year.
So historic low rates, but along with that, now what we are seeing is that inflation is going up. It's becoming more and more expensive. And it is said that this year is going to be a very crucial year, and the Bank of Canada can increase the prices quite a lot. What do you have to say about that?
The prime rate could move, which is what they've been talking about. The prime is right now 2.45, and people can get prime minus mortgages up to like 1.5. Now, if the prime moves 0.25%, it doesn't really stop the market, because the biggest thing in the market right now is there's no inventory. People are not selling their homes. So if you're living in your home and you go and sell it and you buy another home, you cannot find another home. So then you don't list your home. So the listings are down. So as you get more demand of people coming in to buy properties, and you get multiple offers going on. This is what's going on right now, and it has last year too. Right? So price is not coming down. It doesn't look like it.
Right. But what about the mortgage rates? As you said, that in states also, generally we follow what happens in the states, and there the prices are going up for mortgages. So similarly, it is being said that in March, the first rate increase will be there, and following, because Bank of Canada
Yes.
meets every 2 or 3 months, and accordingly this year
Yes.
probably by 0.75 or even 1% the rate can go up. What impact can that have on the people who borrow the money?
Yeah, I mean, when you say the rates are going to go up 1%, you say it's. I don't think that's the case, because the thing is, remember, with CERB and all the government debt that we've got over the last couple of years of this pandemic, they can't afford to really bump the rates too much, because people will lose their homes and people are in financial trouble. So I don't see it going up 1% or 2%. I don't see. I see maybe 0.25%, 0.5%. That's what I'm thinking this year.
Right.
So.
So
Yeah.
people also are comparing this time that, in the 80s, what happened in Canada, that
Yes.
cannot happen over here, or is there a possibility for that also?
Well, I mean, I did a prediction back when the pandemic came in March of 2020, and people said to me, and I posted stuff on Facebook and social media, and they said to me, Tony, what do you think? Are we going into are we going into a recession? People are going to lose their homes because of the pandemic. And it was slow for the first 3 months, but as people got used to this pandemic, and now obviously the vaccine's out and people are getting people adjust, and what happens is they don't fear the pandemic anymore, and they start buying. And this is exactly what happened if you look back in June of 2020 and what the market was started to trigger, it has not slowed down since then. And you can look at the stats and stuff, and you see market hasn't slowed down since 2020 in June. So
Right.
I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I think that's sort of what's going on. Yeah.
But there are also reports from the OFSI department that prices can go down by around 20% in some areas. But as you rightly said, the prices have just gone up
Yeah.
and up. And there doesn't seem to be
Yeah.
that a property which has already gone so high will, lose that
No.
momentum, what we have seen in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about the States, and I was actually down, as you know, I was down in the States in Houston, visiting family over the Christmas, and the market there is getting hot. Like, if you look at the States, the prices are going up there too, like even Phoenix and other places. Like we talk about the market, it's all supply and demand, and you got to remember one thing, immigration has not started yet. And you got to remember at maybe next year when Trudeau opens the doors, you're looking at immigration. Now you're looking at an influx of people coming in from other parts of the country that have been waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to have even a bigger demand. And I don't see, I'll make a prediction right now. I don't see the prices coming down for at least a year and a half.
Okay.
I'm thinking.
Great.
Yeah.
It's time for a break.
Yes.
We'll go for a break. We'll be shortly
Okay.
back, and we'll continue with the discussion and learn more from you as to what a person ought to know when they are going in for a mortgage, the variable
Yes.
mortgage, the fixed mortgage, and what other options are available, and what would be the best option for a first-time buyer or
Yes.
for a person who wants to invest. So we'll talk all about this after the short break.
ਹਰ ਰੰਗ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋ, ਹਰ ਮਾਡਲ, ਹਰ ਇੱਕ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਵੱਖਰੀ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ। ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਹਾਂ, ਸਾਡਾ ਕਰਮ ਹੈ ਅੱਗੇ ਵਧਾਉਣਾ, ਸਫ਼ਰ ਨੂੰ ਸੌਖਾ ਬਣਾਉਣਾ। ਬਸੰਤ ਮੋਟਰਸ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕਰਕੇ।
है जुल्म ढाने का अंदाज भी कितना हंसी, हमारी जान पर बनाई है जब जब उसने अंगड़ाई ली। कभी खामोश रहते हैं, कभी शोर होता है। मोहब्बत में शरारत का मजा कुछ और होता है। दिल को जज्बात का तोहफा, खामोशियों को बात का तोहफा, खूबसूरती में जड़ी नजाकत अदाओं की चांद से मुखड़े को चांद सा तोहफा।
भारत ज्वेलर्स, सच्चे प्यार की चमक जैसा। पायल बिजनेस सेंटर सरी।
ਕੁਦਰਤ ਦੇ ਸੌਮਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਵਰਤੋਂ ਆਯੁਰਵੇਦਾ ਰਾਹੀਂ 5000 ਸਾਲਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਹੁਣ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਬਣਾਏ ਗਏ ਹੈਲਥ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਅਪਰੂਵਡ 100% ਸ਼ੁੱਧ ਆਯੁਰਵੈਦਿਕ ਡਾਇਟਰੀ ਸਪਲੀਮੈਂਟਸ ਦਾ ਲਾਭ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ, ਐਂਗਜ਼ਾਇਟੀ, ਇਨਸੋਮਨੀਆ, ਬਲੱਡ ਸ਼ੂਗਰ, ਕਿਡਨੀ, ਬਲੈਡਰ, ਹਾਜ਼ਮਾ, ਆਈਸਾਈਟ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀ ਬਿਮਾਰੀ ਦਾ ਆਰਗੈਨਿਕ ਇਲਾਜ, ਜੋੜਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਦਰਦਾਂ ਤੇ ਸਰੀਰਕ ਮਸਾਜ ਲਈ ਕਈ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੇ ਆਯੁਰਵੈਦਿਕ ਤੇਲ ਵੀ ਉਪਲਬਧ ਹਨ। ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ 604 628 2003।
ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ। If you're looking for temporary status, you want to know about how to be a PR here, you are new to Canada or you're an international student, you want to know about citizenship or you want to hire foreign workers, You want to know about express entry or sponsor parents or grandparents, Neera Agnihotri from Agnihotri Immigration Consulting can help you out. She has been in this business as a certified immigration consultant since 2006. For more information, call 604-597-2284. 604-597-2284. Our next sponsor is AMC Insurance. They have 9 branches in the lower mainland which are open 7 days a week from 8:30 a.m. onwards till 9 p.m. So if you're looking for home, auto, travel, business, life or recreational insurance, they can help you out. 604-507-6666 is the number. Our guest today is Tony Hundal, and we are talking about the mortgage trends in 2022 and also the kind of impact that we saw the low interest rates had on the real estate market in 2021. What is foreseen in 2022 and what should the people be aware of? So let's get back over to him and continue with our discussion. So Tony, like before the break, you said that you probably don't think the prices are going to come down in the near future, and especially a year or a year and a half. Now in 2022, if the rates, as you are predicting and telling that it might not increase around maybe 0.5% or maybe 0.75%, it might increase. So what do you think? Will that have an adverse impact on the people who bought the money, from private lenders or the B lenders? Can that have an impact, that much increase?
No, because the thing is, I know we talked about the mortgage stress test, a couple of years ago. We did some interviews with that. So just so the people understand what the mortgage stress test is, you qualify at 5.25, even though you get 1.5 or 2% rate. Now that's based on your income. So even if the prime rate changes 0.5%, 0.25%, you're still qualifying at 5.25. So you're way below what the rate is. So that interest rate will not have that much effect on getting a mortgage.
But is that stress test still followed?
Yes, the stress test has never gone away. We've talked about this. It's been there for 5-6 years now. So it hasn't gone away. Government still has not changed that stress test. And in fact, they moved it up. They went down a little bit and then went right back up last year.
Okay, so now with your experience in the mortgage industry, what would you like to recommend to people? The first time home buyer, should they go in for variable or fixed, or persons who have some extra money and they have taken out equity from their home and they want to invest somewhere? So what options are available for the people?
So that's a good question there, Harpreet. So I have 2 types of clients, clients that come in with 5% down payment and first-time home buyers. I always recommend, because they are on a fixed budget, I always recommend they go for a 5-year fixed, and then so their payment doesn't change in the next 5 years. Now, a person that has the 20% down or 25% down, it's okay taking a variable rate if you have a good down payment, because the payment doesn't really change that much if the prime rate moves up 0.25% or 0.5%. So that's kind of the 2 types of clients I deal with, right? And every client has their own decision, but I kind of recommend these things. If you're first time home buyer 5%, go with a 5-year fixed, right?
Okay. So when it comes to variable and fixed, can you elaborate a little bit more as to what difference does it make? Once it is fixed, it is for a fixed term. But when it after 4 years or 5 years, as much the duration is, what generally is there? Is it the variable mortgage where you're paying less interest? How much difference is there between, maybe let's take an example. For 5 years, somebody's going for a variable and somebody's going for a fixed one. Yeah. So does it make a lot of difference if a person has gone for variable, or it is virtually the same with the fixed?
No, because a variable, remember the rates for a variable is prime minus, so you can get prime minus 1, for example, or so if you took the prime rate, it's 2.45 in Canada. So if you minus the 1, that's 1.45 or 1.5, whatever the banks are offering. Now, that payment is based on that 1.5. Now, fixed rates already have moved up in the last year. They're like 2.79, 5 years. So it's a good 1% difference in the rate. Now, fixed obviously doesn't change. Your payment doesn't change, but the prime rate would have to go up by 1% to equal the 5-year fixed rate right now. So I don't see that happening, type of thing. So, but anyways, it's a client's decision, right?
Right.
Yeah. So So you understand how that works, or is it kind of confusing?
Right, of course, because as you said, but when it is fixed, it is not like you said, prime -1 or whatever it is,
No,
as far as
it's fixed,
variable is
5 years
concerned.
fixed.
So fixed is never ever, it doesn't go beyond minus prime, or it is always plus prime.
That's another good question. Now, if you study the variable rate mortgages and fixed over the last 40 years, if you look at the stats, people that they looked at people that took the variable rates over the last 40 years compared to people that took the 5-year fixed, and they found that the person that took the variable rates came out ahead always. So the variable is always, it's pretty much mostly under the fixed rates mortgages, right? So because they're linked to two different things. The fixed rates are linked to the bond market, whereas the variable rates are linked to the prime rate, which the government reviews that every month, which could change up or down. So,
So the Bank of Canada finalizes which way the economy
Yes.
is going, and then they take a decision. But as
Yeah, that's
we are
right.
seeing now, inflation is at a record high right now.
that's right.
It's becoming difficult for the people, and it is also being said that in Canada, out of the G7 countries, we are having the maximum debt, and especially a lot of money is going towards repaying the mortgage. Owning a house is not an easy affair now. So keeping this into consideration and the way inflation is rising, what impact can that have? Will the people be able to still hold on to their houses and continue bearing, the other expenditures also apart from the mortgages that they have to repay?
Yeah. Generally speaking, if you I live in Surrey, as you know, and most of my clients are in Surrey, and I do Vancouver and Abbotsford, and but what I've seen over the last 10 years, I've seen people accumulate wealth through real estate. And we all know this, right? Like, you buy a house at 200,000 and the next year it's at 400,000, the next year it's at 800,000, right? So people take equity out of their homes, and they do have good equities. If you look at the prices right now, I'm sure everybody's looking at their assessments and seeing how high they went. And what they do is people do have money. So we think that, the average person, okay, with the 5% down, but generally speaking, most of my clients put 20, 25, 30% down. And where are they getting this money from? Well, some are borrowing from the equity in their homes. Some have accumulated, wealth over the years in their businesses. And there's a lot of, I think the stat was that there's more millionaires in Surrey than there are in any other place in the Lower Mainland. I don't know if you heard that stat or not, right? So
Well, of
people
course,
do have
real
wealth
estate
to do
anywhere
this.
in the world, anybody invests, it goes up, no doubt about it. But of course, the circumstances which help a person, the major factor is the mortgage rate which they get, and then further on, of course, it helps them out. You talked about taking out the equity from a house. We'll go for a break. Once we are back, I would like to learn as to how can people get equity out of their house. They still have to qualify for that, or for example,
Yes.
a house mortgage, they have to repay a mortgage of about 200,000 on a house, and it was a 500,000 house, but now it has gone to $1 million. So what all process is there? We'll learn from you after this short break.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ, ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਦੇ ਓਨਰ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਰ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੋੜ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੇ ਟਰੱਕਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸਪੇਸ, ਮੋਡੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਐਫੀਸ਼ੀਐਂਸੀ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਟਰੱਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਟੌਰ।
ਵੈਨਕਾਸਾ ਟਾਈਲ ਅਤੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਸ਼ੋਰੂਮ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਟਾਈਲਸ, ਸਟੋਨ, ਮਾਰਬਲ, ਬੈਕਸਪਲੈਸ਼, ਮੋਜ਼ੇਕ ਆਦਿ ਵਾਜਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਾਲੀਅਨ, ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼, ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼, ਪੋਰਸਲਨ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਰੈਮਿਕ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਜਾਂ ਮਾਰਬਲ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਆਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਮਾਲਕ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿੰਗਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰੋ 13042884 ਐਵਨਿਊ ਸਰੀ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 330 7363 604 330 7363। Once again, welcome back to the program. Program ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਡੇ ਟੂ ਡੇ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੈਸ਼ ਐਂਡ ਕੈਰੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ। ਬ੍ਰਿਟਿਸ਼ ਕੋਲੰਬੀਆ ਦਾ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਗਰੋਸਰੀ ਸਟੋਰ ਹੈ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਰੋਸਰੀਜ਼, ਪਾਰਟੀ ਵੇਅਰ, ਕਿਚਨ ਵੇਅਰ, ਹੋਮ ਵੇਅਰ ਤੇ ਪੂਜਾ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। More than 5,000 products are displayed on the shelves. For best quality, unique grocery buying experience and high quality products, ਪਹੁੰਚੋ 7843 128th Street, Surrey, 7843 128th Street, Surrey, 604 503 8787। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੈਕੰਡ ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚ ਫਰੇਜ਼ਰ ਸਟਰੀਟ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਖੋਲ੍ਹ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਹੈ। ਸਾਡੇ ਅਗਲੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗੀ ਹਨ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ। ਘਰ ਦੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਚਨ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਸੋਹਣਾ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਜਾਣੀ ਪਛਾਣੀ ਕੰਪਨੀ ਹਨ। ਕਸਟਮ ਹਾਈ ਐਂਡ ਘਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਮਲਟੀ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਸੇ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹਰ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਕੈਬਨਿਟ ਦਾ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਾਉਣ ਲਈ ਬੈਸਟ ਹੋਮ ਕਿਚਨ ਕੈਬਨਿਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖੋ। ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਸੁਰਜੀਤ ਢੇਸੀ 604 591 8171। Our guest today is Tony Hundal, who is a mortgage specialist and he owns the brokerage Access Mortgage Corporation. And we are learning from him today as to how the real estate market is working out right now, and what are the things which a common person ought to know when they want to buy a house, and what are the various options available. So one option is, if you own a house, you can take the equity out. But what is the process for that? Does everyone qualify for that, or you have to qualify, and how much equity can you take out? So Tony, what is the process?
So it's called, when people take equity out, there's two ways they can do it. They can refinance their house or refinance their mortgage, existing mortgage, with principal and interest payments, and bump that up to 80% of the value of the property. So for example, if you're at $1 million home, you can borrow, if you qualify on income, $800,000. Now there's another better way of doing it where the payments are less, and that's what's called a home equity line of credit, or HELOC we call it. And what that is a secured line of credit against your house. So for example, if you had I'll give you just an example. If you had a house that was $1 million and you had a $500,000 mortgage, you could take up to 80%, so up to $300,000 line of credit, interest only payments, and you can, so when you use it, you take it out. Say you need $200,000 for the down payment of the next house, then you would, it's basically you just write a check and you pay interest only for whatever you use. Like say your limit could be $300,000, and if you use $200,000, you're only paying interest for the $200,000. So that's a very common way that clients are doing it with less payment. Yeah.
So again, you said you have to qualify for that. So it depends
Yes.
upon the income that you're making, and is
Yes.
it based
Yes.
on the previous, the requirements which one had to fulfill to get the previous mortgage? For example, you gave an example of $1 million and 500,000 mortgage was there. So at that
Yes.
time they qualified for that. So this means if they have to
Yes.
take out more equity from their home, they ought to have
Yes.
more income for that.
Well, it all depends on their income. Like, so if you're self-employed, for example, I'll use that as an example, and you show, your income, we look at your last 2 years of your income T1 generals and those assessments now, and that's where you can use the basement suite income too. So we calculate all that. So, this job of lending has become very complicated, and that's why you should go to specialists that can look at this and look at the computer. Like I usually, when I get the information, it usually takes me 1 or 2 days, and I can analyze everything for the client and give them advice on how do they qualify and how much do they qualify for before I send it to the banks for approval.
Right.
So it's a very it's a very complicated system now. That's why, some people that come into this industry they don't really have a lot of experience. They can't deal with it because they don't really know the ins and outs, right? Like I
but
do.
Here comes the question that a lot of mortgage consultants have been facing the brunt of the people also, as well as some agencies. There have been reports of some bunglings going on where papers are manipulated and all sorts of things are happening. So when you point out that a person should come to only that person who has the knowledge and the experience, but what efforts are being done by the monitoring agencies to stop all this? Because there have been some incidents where even some mortgage consultants have lost their license also. So
That's
how
right.
should a common person, know that a person to whom they are going is the right person?
Yeah, very good question, Harpreet. And this has happened in our industry, and I'm sure if you Google people on the industry, you can find out who's been reprimanded by the the FICOMs and there is an agency that looks after this kind of stuff, and they do monitor this stuff. So and people do get busted for that stuff. And what I always say to clients is, they come into my office, they say, "Hey, Tony, do you do anything like that? Like, do you make up this stuff?" And I say, listen. I point at my license, which is on my office, and I say, I've been doing this 30 years. Why would I even do that to jeopardize my reputation?
Absolutely.
So, which is a good point, because what happens is that newer, and I hate to say it, the newer brokers that come into this industry, they want a quick buck. They want to do something. They want to earn money quick, and it is happening in industry. But the thing is, I would say it's the 80-20 rule again, right? 80% of the brokers that you deal with are reputable brokers, whereas that 20%, they are the ones that do this kind of stuff, and they will get caught, and they will be put into the computer saying that they got it. And I can show you many examples of that. But I always tell my clients one thing: Google me, please. I've been in the industry for 30 years. I worked in the banks for 20 years as a manager. I have a reputation. I would never do that kind of stuff, and I can still get deals done. You don't need to do that stuff, So that's what's happening. You're
there are
absolutely
very
right, Harpreet.
genuine
This is
ways
very
by
common.
which one can qualify. So why take the wrong path? And of course, not only jeopardizing
Yes.
your license, but along with that, the person who gets all this done, they can also be in trouble.
Oh yeah, and then there's another thing I want to tell you is this happened in the bank actually when I was with Coast Capital for many years. As a manager there. People got there was someone internally that was doing this kind of stuff, and what happened was not only will the bank they'll fire the person, they will also send a letter to the client that bought the house and say, "Can you give me the original documents from CRA? If you cannot, please move your mortgage in 90 days." So the clients can get in trouble for this, not just the lender. So you have to be careful, right?
Great. So finally, your advice to the persons who are watching this program, if they have to go in for a mortgage, and as you have pointed out that rates are not going to come down, the market is going to be the way it has been, and when it comes to the mortgage rates, 0.5% or maybe 0.75% would not make much difference. But anything in the end, in conclusion, you would like to add?
Well, I mean, if you want to come, like I was saying, you come to someone that's been in the industry for a long time, and not just myself. There's other people in the industry that have been in the industry for a long time that have that good reputation. You can call me anytime. Online. You just Google Tony Hundal, and I want to kind of apologize that obviously I do speak Punjabi, but obviously I grew up here, and so I can still speak Punjabi.
Right.
And I know I like to, but I don't. I think the full factor of this interview, I wanted to kind of say it in English so people would get it, and you do a great job of translating there, right? So, but most of my clients, 90% of my clients are Punjabi. So if you ever need any help, just Google me. My cell phone's on there. I own a local, obviously, Access Mortgage here in Surrey at the Powell Business Center, and I do have 20 brokers that work for me. So I'm not just the overnight guy.
Great.
So that's kind of just call me anytime, right?
Tony, thank you very much for your time and for giving us this appraisal as to what is in future in 2022 and what happened in the past. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Harpreet, for having me again.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye. ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਟੋਨੀ ਹੁੰਡਲ, ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਐਕਸਿਸ ਮਾਰਗੇਜ ਕਾਰਪੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਓਨਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਮਾਰਗੇਜ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਚੋ। ਜਿਸ ਕੋਲ ਵੀ ਜਾਣਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਟ ਦਾ ਯੁੱਗ ਹੈਗਾ, ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਰਖੋ, ਬੰਦੇ ਨੂੰ ਗੂਗਲ ਕਰੋ, ਉਸ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੀ ਰਿਵਿਊਜ਼ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਅਤੇ ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗਲਤ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਮਾਰਗੇਜ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਇਹ ਨਾ ਭੁੱਲੋ ਕਿ ਨਾ ਸਿਰਫ ਜਿਸ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਕੋਲੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਉਹ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਫਸੇਗਾ, ਬਲਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਔਨ ਦਾ ਹੁੱਕ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਹੋ। So there are lot of genuine ways by which you can qualify. So why go the wrong way? ਕਿਉਂ ਗਲਤ ਰਸਤੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਰਨਾ? ਇਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਲਾਹ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਦੂਸਰਾ, ਉਹਨੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਾਲ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਾਣਗੇ, ਪਰ ਉਨੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਤੇ 80s ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਉਸ ਤੱਕ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਅਜੇ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਨਹੀਂ, ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਉਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਵੀ ਮਾਹੌਲ ਬਣ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਬਟ ਡੈਫੀਨੇਟਲੀ ਇਨਫਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਇਜ਼ ਔਨ ਦ ਰਾਈਜ਼, ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਪੈਸਾ ਆਪਣੀ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਵਾਲੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਲੈ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਚਿੰਤਤ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਦਮ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੇਕਰ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਰੇਟ ਵੱਧਦੇ ਨੇ ਤਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਇੰਪੈਕਟ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੱਦੇਨਜ਼ਰ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਕੁਝ ਨਾ ਕੁਝ ਕਰੇਗੀ। ਪਰ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟੋਨੀ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਆਲੀਫਾਈ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਸਟ੍ਰੈਸ ਟੈਸਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਆਧਾਰ ਤੇ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਜੇਕਰ ਇਹ 0.75% ਜਾਂ ਈਵਨ 1% ਵੀ ਰੇਟ ਵੱਧ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਅਜੇ ਖਤਰੇ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ 5% ਤੋਂ ਉੱਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਆਲੀਫਾਈ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਹ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਮਿਲੀ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਟੋਨੀ ਹੁੰਡਲ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ 6 ਵਜੇ ਪੈਸੀਫਿਕ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ। ਇਫ ਯੂ ਆਲਸੋ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਪਾਰਟ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ, ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਮੀ ਐਟ 6046037555 or you can email me at harpreetsingh@gmail.com। ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਕਰਦੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ। ਸਮਾਂ ਕੱਢ ਕੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇਖਣ ਲਈ ਧੰਨਵਾਦ। ਫਿਰ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਹੈਵ ਅ ਸੇਫ ਈਵਨਿੰਗ, ਸਟੇ ਹੈਲਦੀ ਐਂਡ ਇੰਜੋਏ yourself।
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ, ਡੈਲਟਾ, ਰਿਚਮੰਡ, ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਬਿਲਡਰ, ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਰ ਦੀ, ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਸਾਰ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਦੀਪ 6048259295 ਉੱਤੇ।
ਪਾਪਾ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਜ ਕਿਉਂ ਉਦਾਸ ਹੋ?
ਬੇਟਾ, ਤੇਰੇ ਚਾਚਾ ਦੀ ਕੋਰੋਨਾ ਵਾਇਰਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਡੈਥ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਉਸਨੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਕਹਿਣ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਵੀ ਟੀਕਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਗਵਾਇਆ।
ਚਾਚਾ ਜੀ ਤਾਂ ਪੜ੍ਹੇ ਲਿਖੇ, ਸਿਹਤਮੰਦ ਅਤੇ ਰੋਜ਼ ਐਕਸਰਸਾਈਜ਼ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਲੇ ਸਨ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਟੀਕਾ ਕਿਉਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਲਗਵਾਇਆ?
ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਡਰ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਟੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਮਾੜੇ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੇ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਸੁਰੱਖਿਅਤ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ। ਹਾਲਾਂਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਮਝਾਇਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਸਭ ਅਫਵਾਹਾਂ ਹਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਟੀਕੇ ਵਿਗਿਆਨਿਕਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਡਾਕਟਰਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਿਹਨਤ ਅਤੇ ਖੋਜ ਦਾ ਨਤੀਜਾ ਹਨ।
ਪਾਪਾ, ਹੁਣ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਟੀਕਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਲਗਵਾ ਲੈਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈਲਥ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਅਪੀਲ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਵੈਕਸੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਵਾਓ ਅਤੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲਦਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਟੀਕਾ ਲਗਵਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੇਰਣਾ ਕਰੋ। ਆਓ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਖ ਹੈਲਥ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੀ ਇਸ ਮੁਹਿੰਮ ਦਾ ਹਿੱਸਾ ਬਣੀਏ।